All right, buckle up, patriots. We're diving headfirst into the murky waters of the Epstein files, and folks, what we're finding isn't just a few drips, it's a full blown flood of questionable transparency from our very own Department of Justice. Remember when we were all promised full disclosure? When the public demanded answers about one of the most disgusting and well connected criminal enterprises in modern history? Well, it seems the justice part of the DOJ is, shall we say, a little flexible when it comes to the powerful. Today, we're cutting through the noise, pausing the mainstream narrative, and shining a spotlight on the moments that expose the absolute audacity of those in charge. Get ready to have your jaw drop because the excuses they're peddling for why we still don't have the full picture are beyond belief. Let's roll.
The Trump DOJ is doing something, but also not meeting the deadline. They have not released everything from the Epstein files, but we do have new material. And so what we're going to do here, and Nicole Walls just walked us through why there's so much bipartisan pressure on this, administration to comply. We're going to walk through what we're learning as we go together, because I got all the materials here. We got a whole team inside MS Now doing this work, going through the batches of documents fresh from just a few hours. We've been combing through it. We know Trump officials already admit that they are essentially not complying with the law. They are not releasing all the files. And the way they walked this out today was by first almost trying to lower expectations.
Hold on a minute. Did you just hear that? Trump officials already admit they are essentially not complying with the law, and then they try to lower expectations? This is classic political spin, folks. It's like a kid telling their parents, yeah, I didn't do all my homework, but I did do some of it, and you should be grateful. Think about it. We're talking about the Epstein files, a scandal that involves some of the most powerful, connected, and frankly, depraved individuals on the planet. And the Justice Department, the very entity tasked with upholding the law, is openly admitting they're not fully complying with the Transparency Act. The irony is thicker than a government bureaucracy manual. This isn't about technical difficulties or volume of material. This is about control. It's about who gets to decide what the public knows and when they know it. When the government, any government, starts managing your expectations about transparency, that's a massive red flag. It's not about being transparent. It's about managing the narrative. They're basically saying, we know you want the truth, but we're going to give you a highly curated, heavily redacted version, and you should be happy we gave you anything at all. And let's be real, if this were any other administration, the media would be in an absolute frenzy, demanding heads roll. But when it's politically convenient, suddenly not complying with the law becomes a nuanced discussion about managing expectations. It's a double standard as old as Washington itself. This isn't transparency, it's an insult to anyone who believes in open government. They're treating the American public like children who can't handle the full truth. We, the people, deserve to know the full scope of this depravity, not just the sanitized, government-approved version. And for the DOJ to admit they're not complying, that tells you everything you need to know about how seriously they take our right to know.
Materials here. We got a whole team inside MS Now doing this work, going through the batches of documents fresh from just a few hours. We've been combing through it. We know Trump officials already admit that they are essentially not complying with the law. They are not releasing all the files. And the way they walked this out today was by first almost trying to lower expectations. The Deputy Attorney General blatantly saying they were not going to comply fully with the law, which fed some negative headlines. Then they released a bunch of stuff. And as I was mentioning to Nicole, we've got the 4 categories here I'm going to walk through. We have some new grand jury materials. We have some new photos. So it is important, even amidst the skepticism that is well earned for this government, to deal in the facts of what we have. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Now, there are many redactions, which raises a question. This is a file that was over 90 pages that we pulled, and they've redacted everything, as you see. That's going to feed more questions about the compliance, with Democrats warning tonight, and we'll hear from one shortly, that they will use all tools available to get this law 100% complied with. We are also parsing through the various different materials we've gotten. That includes court documents from cases where we didn't have all the information. That goes all the way back to 2008. There are hundreds of photos, some videos, some audio tapes, messages around voicemails. that continue to add to the information about this sprawling web. So if you are someone saying tonight, did we get nothing? The answer is no. We, the American public, journalists, lawyers, those interested in this story, got new information. And if you're asking, did we get everything? No. As Nicole and I discussed, we're a long way from that. And the DOJ is not being transparent. And so I'm going to show you what I mentioned. How they started the day was not, hey, we're really trying, or the way they worded it in this letter, which I'll get into, which on paper sounds good, like, hey, we're doing as much as we can. But they did something quite different to start the day. The very controversial former defense lawyer for Donald Trump, now the #2 official at DOJ, went out on Fox and said they're not releasing all the files today.
I expect that we're going to release several 100,000 documents today, and those documents will come in all different forms, photographs and other materials. And so I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000, and then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more.
The law says what it says. President Trump signed it. And of all the agencies in government, the Justice Department knows a lot about complying with the law. Remember, Mr. Blanche, Pam Bondi, and their deputies and prosecutors, they go after people all the time for not complying with the law. If you have an IRS deadline, you don't get to say, oh, I'm giving you some now and some later, maybe a couple 100,000 later. This goes to the question of whether this Trump administration is honest, complies with the law, or is dishonest and has a different elite standard for itself than everyone else. Here's how Blanche put it to Congress. Because of the volume of the material and the requirements that every page of every doc be reviewed for potential redactions, final stages of review of some material continue. They talked about that ongoing review being completed over the next 2 weeks. And that's what I mean about the contrast. As a letter, the reason that's written that way and that carefully, and we have it right here, is they are prepared to be taken to court. And they want to be able to try to argue to judges that they are really doing this. So in writing and to Congress and in the legal documents, this DOJ is acting like the Epstein Transparency Act is good law. They're not defying it. And they are, I think, I'm telling you our reporting, trying to set themselves up to be able to defend this if they are taken to court. At the same time, on Fox and elsewhere, they have a little more bluster, sounding like they'll decide when and how material comes out. And I mentioned Congressman Ro Khanna, who led this fight on a bipartisan basis, a Democrat who recruited Republicans and then won that clash with the president himself. Here's how he's reacting.
Some of the documents, I've just been scanning them, have very heavy redactions. This including documents for which judges ordered released, like the grand jury testimony in New York. They owe the Congress and the American public an explanation for every redaction. That I didn't see published on the DOJ page, but the law is very clear that any redaction has to be justified in writing.
Fact check, true. Now, in all fairness to the government, the way the law was written, it expedited first the documents. It said release everything by tonight, and then it gives them 2 more weeks to explain the redactions. So the congressman is correct, although technically under the law, the DOJ, take 2 more weeks to explain these redactions. And as I told you, some of them require explanations. As to the reference to grand jury material, that's important because that is usually secret. If you remember, say, the Bob Mueller grand jury notes, we never got them, even though they were of public interest. Here, the law requires them, and DOJ says, and I'm just sharing with you our notes as we go, that they are releasing the grand jury materials. I'll just make one more point on this. I'm reading from the letter here, and it says they will release the materials from Epstein's criminal case in 18, the Maxwell case in 19, the Epstein death probe, and the grand jury materials from the Southern District of New York. So tonight and in the days ahead, we are going to be combing through all of this. You can't instantly do hundreds of thousands of documents, and the DOJ hasn't made it easily searchable. I'll get to that in a moment. So one big question here is, are they complying with those judicial orders to release all the secret grand jury material? And if so, that will yield a lot of important information. And if not, well, there's court cases there and judges there to make them do it. Now, I'm going to put back up the statement we started showing you. Chuck Schumer says releasing a mountain of blacked out pages violates the spirit of transparency. Dems will address and assess how the documents have been, quote, released to determine what actions must be taken. So that is the state of play. The Democrats are not playing dead. They're not acting like, oh, thank you so much for a couple redacted pages. But there is a process aspect to this. Anyone trying to tell you tonight what's in all these documents, well, you can't believe them because no one, not even artificial intelligence, can scan all of this instantly. We're going to be going through this with you tonight, so get comfortable, buckle up. I've got great guests. I'm starting with John Flannery, a former federal prosecutor who's been a special counsel to congressional committees. John, welcome. Before we get into all of it, my first question for you tonight, based on what we know, which is fluid, how would you grade the compliance? It's clearly not an F in that they haven't blown off the entire project. And as I showed viewers, it doesn't look like an A. But how do you view the compliance based on what we know?
Well, let's start with simply. They have already defied the order that said that this would happen no later than today. I'm waiting till midnight. Maybe there's more, but I would give them an F because it strikes me that that doesn't occur unless you are having a document dump to withhold, as litigators sometimes do, to withhold the information that is called for by the statute that set the...
And there you have it, folks. Another masterclass in government obfuscation dressed up as transparency. From lowering expectations to searchable files that can't search, the message is clear. They don't want us to know the full truth about the Epstein network. But here's the thing, we're not going to let them get away with it. It's up to us, the informed public, to keep pushing, to keep asking questions, and to demand genuine accountability. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking this is normal or acceptable. The truth matters, and those who try to bury it should be exposed. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, share this video with everyone you know, and subscribe for more unfiltered analysis. Let's keep shining a light on the dark corners of power. Your voice is crucial in this fight for transparency. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop questioning the narrative.